From our Toronto studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Zahra Syed. Our top story tonight. The Palestinian Health Ministry says that Israeli airstrikes have killed at least 105 Palestinians in the last 24 hours. Despite being previously designated as a safe zone, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant has announced the expansion of the IDF's offensive into the southern city of Rafah. The move is raising concerns amongst nearly 1.9 million displaced Palestinians who now call it home. The UN Humanitarian Office has expressed deep concern about the escalating situation in Rafah. Spokesperson for the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, Jens Laerke, warns that the border town has become a pressure cooker of despair. Israeli jets have also carried out aerial attacks in southern Lebanon and inside Syria, resulting in casualty amongst pro-Iranian fighters. The overall death toll stands at 27,019 Palestinians killed and 61,139 wounded in Gaza since October 7th. Israel has reported 1,139 deaths since the Hamas attacks began. The World Health Organization has issued a dire call for immediate action as more than 8,000 individuals in Gaza are in desperate need of medical evacuation. The majority of them are suffering from war-related injuries. The WHO representative in the occupied Palestinian territories, Richard Pieperkorn, says the current medical referral system for critically injured and sick patients outside Gaza is ad hoc and insufficient. An organized, secure, and continuous patient transfer system to Egypt and potentially other locations is urgently required. Of the 8,000 people requiring referrals, 6,000 have sustained war-related injuries, while 2,000 suffer from other medical conditions. Since the conflict began, only 1,243 patients, including 790 injured and 445 ill individuals, along with 1,025 companions, have been sent abroad through Rafah. Egypt and other countries have offered support. However, the lack of a functional referral system and ongoing challenges in accessing hospitals continues to impede critical medical care. WHO missions to northern and southern Gaza have also faced numerous obstacles, with several missions either delayed or denied by Israel. This has been due to impassable routes, late checkpoint openings, and excessive delays. Israeli restrictions have hindered tens of thousands of Palestinian Muslims from attending the weekly Friday prayers at Al-Aqsa Mosque. This marks the 17th Friday since the conflict began. Only 13,000 individuals managed to enter the mosque for prayers, a sharp decline from the usual 50,000 attendees. Witnesses note that the mosque appeared noticeably less populated due to the strict Israeli measures. Since the onset of Israel's war on Palestine in October, Israeli authorities have enforced barriers and tight controls at the entrances to the Old City and Al-Aqsa Mosque. This is especially the case on Fridays. Elderly individuals were the only ones permitted to pass. As a result, hundreds of worshippers were forced to pray in the streets near the Old City, surrounded by heavy Israeli police presence. These restrictions have persisted since Israel began its military offensive in Gaza. A group of Palestinian Americans has declined an invitation to attend a roundtable meeting with the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken. They cited their opposition to the Biden administration's support for Israel's violence in Gaza. In a statement, they criticized the administration for its complicity in genocide, expressing frustration with the continued loss of Palestinian lives, which currently stands at more than 27,000. They demanded an immediate ceasefire as their simple request. Despite international calls for a ceasefire, both President Biden and Secretary Blinken have refrained from supporting one. The Biden administration's unwavering support for Israel has sparked outrage amongst Arab Americans, Muslims, labor unions, and progressive Democrats. Experts say this could potentially impact future elections. They also note that Biden's recent visit to Michigan suggests a strategic move to gain Arab American support in the upcoming elections. A top Palestinian official has slammed the passage of a bill by Congress to ban the entry of all members of the Palestine Liberation Organization, or the PLO. Secretary of the PLO's Executive Committee, Hussein al-Sheikh, described the bill as a dangerous decision towards the sole legitimate representative of the Palestinian people. He says it harms the rights of Palestinians and goes beyond the international position that recognizes these rights and recognizes the organization as a sole legitimate representative of the Palestinian people. Al-Sheikh has urged the U.S. administration to provide a response and clarification on the bill. The House of Representatives approved the bill that prohibits all members of the PLO, including members of Palestinian groups Hamas and Islamic Jihad, from entering the U.S. Biden sanctioned 4 individuals over Israeli settler attacks in the West Bank. Details come after the break. Stay tuned and we'll be right back. Welcome back. President Joe Biden has taken action to address the rising violence by Israeli settlers against Palestinians in the occupied West Bank. He has signed an executive order enabling sanctions against the attackers and blacklisted 4 individuals. The move follows a surge in settler violence coinciding with Israel's latest war on Palestine. The sanctions prohibit these individuals from accessing the U.S. financial system, freeze U.S.-based properties, and ban entry into the United States. U.S. citizens are also barred from engaging in business with them. The 4 individuals are accused of violence, intimidation, property damage, forced displacement of Palestinian civilians, and threats against Bedouin communities. These sanctions aim to counter actions that jeopardize peace and stability in the West Bank. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and Secretary of State Antony Blinken have been actively involved in the policy initiative. The Biden administration has notified Israeli officials about these actions. However, reports suggesting potential sanctions against certain Israeli politicians like Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich or National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir have been denied. Both ministers are at the forefront of Israel's illegal settler movement. The U.S. is planning to launch a multi-tiered response to attacks against American troops in Jordan. Sunday's suicide drone attack killed 3 American troops and injured at least 34 others at a remote military installation in Jordan near the Syrian and Iraqi borders. An umbrella group of Iranian-backed militia calling itself the Islamic Resistance in Iraq claimed responsibility. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin told reporters this week that a set of recommendations have been forwarded to President Joe Biden. He notes that the deadly attack was carried out by an axis of resistance, and that it is unclear how much Iran knew about the attack. He adds that it does not matter as Iran sponsors, trains, and funds these groups. Austin underlines that the recent attacks are not driving the U.S. to consider withdrawing troops from Iraq and Syria. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit has ruled against blocking a preliminary injunction that allowed the U.S. military academy at West Point to continue using race as a factor in their admissions process. This decision comes in the midst of an ongoing appeal that was brought before the U.S. Supreme Court by Students for Fair Admissions, or the SFFA. SFFA is notable for pushing for the 2023 Supreme Court ruling against race-based admissions. That decision did not explicitly address the application of its ruling to military service academies. SSFA has now initiated legal action against both West Point and the Naval Academy, alleging violations of the Equal Protection Clause. The appeals court denied the group's request for an injunction, citing its inappropriateness while the case is pending at the Supreme Court. SSFA has sought to end West Point's consideration of race during the lawsuit. It has now taken an emergency appeal to the Supreme Court. SSFA is urging justices to stop West Point from using race in admissions before the January 31st application deadline for the graduating class of 2028. A far-right separatist leader in Spain's Catalonia autonomous community is campaigning to eliminate halal menus from public schools. The city of Ripoll elected Silvia Oriols as mayor last year. She is part of the anti-immigrant Catalan separatist party Aliança Catalana. Ripoll is now trying to ensure that all meat served in the city's schools comes from animals slaughtered after sedation. The city has a significant foreign-born population with a large Muslim community. At least 12 new immigrant residents have also complained that the city council is putting up obstacles to delay or make it impossible for them to sign up for local services like healthcare and schooling. An Indian court has allowed Hindus to offer prayers at the historic 17th century Gyanvapi Mosque in the province of Uttar Pradesh. The court directed authorities to make arrangements for Hindus to worship within 7 days. The Gyanvapi Mosque, located adjacent to the 18th century Kashi Vishwanath Temple, is at the center of a legal battle in India. This decision follows claims by the Archaeological Survey of India, suggesting the existence of a Hindu temple prior to the mosque's construction. A suit was filed by 5 Hindu women seeking worshipping rights in the mosque compound. The latest ruling reignites a dispute over religious heritage, similar to past controversies like the Babri Mosque case. Observers say it also raises questions about the historical ownership of religious sites in India. The recent arrival of snowfall and rain, ending a prolonged dry period in Afghanistan, has brought new challenges to vulnerable citizens. The UN World Food Programme reports that 10 million people in Afghanistan have no food aid due to weather-related challenges. The UN also predicts a worsening food security situation by March. It predicts that 36% of the population will require food assistance. While the precipitation is seen as a relief from the threat of drought, it has also worsened the plight of impoverished Afghans. It has left them cold and hungry, as few have the resources to buy fuel for heating and cooking. Heavy snowfall has hindered the delivery of humanitarian aid in remote regions. As well, some are unable to work due to harsh weather conditions, further reducing their meager income. That's all from our Toronto studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Assalamu alaikum and good night.